Making no mistakes is what establishes the certainty of victory, for it means conquering an enemy that is already defeated. Hence, the skillful fighter puts himself into a position which makes defeat impossible, and does not miss the moment for defeating the enemy. Thus it is that in war, the victorious strategist only seeks battle after the victory has been won. Greetings, heretics, Xenos, and corpse worshippers. I am Hecatu, Strike Master Adjutant of the Black Drake's Warband. Today I am going to be discussing tactics to employ in Tournament Arena, as well as reviewing some footage of the previous Tournament Arena. I will be going over how to counter certain characters, and advice on how you might best employ your own characters against the enemy. First, let's talk about Overwatch. Overwatch is a trait that places the character in a defensive posture if they did not attack on their turn. Unless otherwise noted in an ability description, the character in Overwatch will only attack the first target that moves within range. There is a visual indicator that appears over the character's head to indicate that they are in Overwatch. Overwatch characters have the potential to devastate your attempts at an offense if you are ill prepared. So, let's talk about how to deal with Overwatch. One method is to employ characters with the Infiltrate trait. Once a character with Infiltrate has moved into melee with the opposing Overwatch character, that opposing Overwatch character will not be able to take Overwatch shots at other characters that move within range. Janzar, Shadow Sun, Certus, Deathleaper, and Tiark are characters that you can deploy and Infiltrate. Janzar has 4 movement, impressive for a character without flying. She can move in quickly, ignoring Overwatch, and set off a potentially devastating melee chain attack with her active ability. Tiark, however, is perhaps the most mobile of these infiltrators. He can move forward, and then, from range, uses active ability to pull himself into melee with the target. Deathleaper is best used in conjunction with Tyranids with the Synapse trait. This allows him more options as he re-enters the battlefield a turn after activating his Fear the Unseen ability. Celestine does not have Infiltrate, but her passive ability will create summons that will take the hits for her. However, be careful if the enemy has 3 or more Overwatch characters, as each Overwatch character can one by one take out her 2 summons and then finish her off before she gets to attack. Thaddeus Noble doesn't have Infiltrate either, but he has the Suppressive Fire trait and the range to easily deal with Ravos. Also, his active ability can reach anywhere on the map. I would advise to generally avoid using this on the first turn though, as the more turns you hold it, the more accurate it will be. If you activate it on the first turn, there is no guarantee that it will even hit your target. But if you wait even a single turn, you will guarantee at least a single hit. Other options include characters like Civil Divine, who, at the start of her turn, grants Infiltrate to adjacent allies via her passive. Summons, like Shield Drones, can soak up Overwatch shots from characters that only get a single Overwatch shot, like Alandis or Certus. This will not be very effective against Ravos, as Ravos stays in Overwatch for, I believe, up to 6 attacks. Against Ravos, you could potentially employ characters with range 3 that can apply suppression, like Volk, Northrop, or as I previously mentioned, Thaddeus. Take caution when using these characters though, as they can be quite fragile. Also, you could carefully employ Archimedos against a Ravos in Overwatch by standing back and summoning Bloodletters on one of Ravos' shield drones. Once a summon is in melee contact with the Overwatch character, they will no longer shoot at other characters that move within range, just like when you move an Infiltrate character into melee with an Overwatch character. Lastly, there is the Brute Force option via Terminator Armor. This will not be effective against Ravos, but if you are facing foes like Alandis, who only have a single Overwatch attack, then you can use the Terminator armor trait to reduce that damage by 75%, allowing you to shrug off the first Overwatch shot with minimal damage. This Malgan Raw is an example of a character with the visual indicator showing that he is in Overwatch. Next, let us discuss terrain. Terrain elevation. Avoid low terrain, especially if the foe has easy access to high terrain that would be within range of the low terrain you're moving into. The plus 50% damage boost can prove hugely detrimental to your forces. Inversely, you should also take advantage of the high ground when possible. Razor wire. Avoid razor wire like the plague. Again, the plus 50% damage incurred while standing on these hexes can be devastating. Tall grass. Try using grass when facing enemies that get multiple hits on their ranged attacks, especially if a one-shot character like Alandis has acquired the extra hits buff. Next, some characters have a lot of armor and health, or have traits or skills that make them more difficult to easily put down. The characters you use to take them down should depend on who you are targeting. Sometimes it may be a better option to just ignore them until later, dealing with more immediate threats. In The Art of War, Sun Tzu wrote, "Military tactics are like unto water, for water in its natural course runs away from high places and hastens downwards. So in war, the way is to avoid what is strong and to strike what is weak. Water shapes its course according to the nature of the ground over which it flows. The soldier works out his victory in relation to the foe whom he is facing. Therefore, just as water retains no constant shape, so in warfare, there are no constant conditions." These are some examples of characters that can be harder to put down. Arjak has the Terminator armor trait and has higher than normal block chance when the attacker's hex is covered in ice or when his health is reduced below 35%. I advise against making your first attack against him from a single hit sniper character such as Kalandis, as the damage will be reduced by 75%. Consider softening him up with a multi-hit attack first. Toth is also in Terminator armor, so similar tactics for softening him up first with a multi-hit attack are also advisable. However, Toth also heals at the start of each of his turns. When you decide to take him down, you must bring forth overwhelming firepower to do so. Be aware of his time ghost, and step on the hex on which it is located if you can before dealing a death blow. Otherwise, you will have to replicate your efforts and defeat him a second time. Bellator has Mark 10 Gravis armor. This effectively doubles his armor except against crits, making him quite sturdy. His summons also have this trait. The longer the battle goes on without him activating his ability, the more summons he can bring forth, giving you a headache to deal with. Consider dealing with him quickly if the opportunity presents itself before he can bring forth his summons. If he does manage to activate his summon ability, consider trying to ignore the summons while you deal with the other threats on the field. The summons are not worth points, and they tend to be more of a nuisance than a real threat. Calgon, also in Mark 10 Gravis armor, is even tankier than Bellator due to having even more health and armor. His active ability unleashes a devastating AoE. After he has used his active though, he is a relatively minor threat, and he should probably be ignored while you deal with the more immediate threats. Celestine is, by herself, fairly squishy. However, if attacked, she summons up to 2 Gemini Superior, and damage from the attack will be redirected to an adjacent Gemini Superior. If you find that you can completely encircle a Celestine with terrain, summons, or other characters before you attack, then you prevent Celestine from being able to summon a Gemini Superior in an adjacent hex, allowing you to make a quick, clean kill. Tyrant Guard. By the Emperor, this is a monstrosity. It has more health than any other character in the game, but with armor that is just below average. However, If this monstrosity is within 2 hexes of a Synapse creature, or it didn't move during its turn, then incoming damage dealt to it and adjacent allies is reduced by almost 1/3. This is further compounded by the big target trait, which reduces hits adjacent allies take from incoming attacks down to a minimum of 1. Taking out Synapse creatures can help reduce this creature's tankiness in future turns. Ravos is a Tau in a Gundam. I mean an XV-8 Crisis Suit. Ravos has considerable health, above average armor, and can summon 2 shield drones that can redirect damage to themselves via their Savior Protocol's passive ability. Use Infiltrate or a range 3 character with Suppressive Fire to deactivate Ravos' Overwatch if it is active. Otherwise, just ignore Ravos. Ravos does not do a whole lot of damage when not in Overwatch. Just flow like water around the Gundam. I mean, Crisis Suit. Definitely a Crisis Suit. Be aware that this Crisis Suit also has the big target trait. Finally, an honorable mention, Valandis. Valandis is quite resilient to ranged attacks on the turn after she activates her ability. She also has a sort of preemptive Thorn's passive ability that damages the first melee attacker each turn. While she is buffed by her active, it is generally inadvisable to direct your ranged attacks against her. If you choose to engage her in melee, either do so first with either a tanky character or a summon. Next, let's discuss power-ups. Power-ups can be a huge boon, but be careful when picking them up. Oftentimes they are located on razor wire, which, despite the temporary shield the power-up provides, could easily spell your character's demise. When you pick up a power-up, this gives you a temporary shield equal to the character's max health, but with 0 armor. This shield lasts until the start of the character's next turn. The health power-up gives plus 200% max health. The armor power-up gives 100% of your character's max health as armor. This means that it is most effective when picked up by a high health character, but obviously still helps squishier characters stay alive. The extra hits power-up increases the number of hits for both melee and ranged attacks by 2. This can prove to be quite devastating for the enemy when paired with a sniper-type character like Certus or Calandus. The extra melee hits power-up increases the number of hits for melee attacks by 4. I have found this to be quite terrifying when it is picked up by a Tyrant Guard. Also, Calandus can be quite maneuverable when using her active, and she can potentially grab 2 power-ups in a single turn. Finally, let's review a battle from the recent tournament arena and see what tactics are employed by the foe and myself. I have the Tyrant Guard, Valandis, and the Death Leaper on the field of battle. I need some Synapse, so I'm going to place Northrop on the field. Next, I'll move Tyrant Guard up to the health power-up. And then I'll move Calandus onto the damage power-up. A dangerous position because it's on barbed wire. I move the Northrop up next to the Tyrant Guard, placing him in Synapse range, and using the Tyrant Guard to protect the Northrop and now the Death Leaper. My foe has a Malgan Ra, an Ulf, and Calandus, and places on the field of battle Thaddeus Noble and Celestine. He moves Calandus onto the multi-hit power-up, takes out my Calandus, and then he moves and picks up a second power-up. That amazing maneuverability that Calandus has. Then he tries focusing on my Tyrant Guard to little effect. I want more Synapse on the range because, well, I'm playing Tyranids, and more Synapse is useful. I move and grab the power-up for armor with my Winged Tyrant. The Winged Prime. Move my Tyrant Guard up, taunt Calandus, infect Calandus with Neuroparasite. Alright, and then I'll move the Death Leaper in to attack Malgan Ra with a pathetic hit that should have killed him but did not crit. my enemy will turn his attention to my winged prime, trying to terminate my summoner. Wolf one-shots my Death Leaper. Neurothrope finishes off Galandus, and then infects Thaddeus with Neuroparasite. Winged Prime summons the Tyrant card, the Tyrannid Warrior. Hive Tyrant moves up, smacks Thaddeus, gets smacked by Thaddeus, and then by Ulf. He's still standing. Celestine also hits the Tyrant card, and the Tyrant card is still standing. What a beast. Neurothrope infects Wolf with Neuroparasite. Winged Prime moves in, attacks Wolf, summons next to Wolf. Wolf smashes summons because that's what he does, he smashes summons. Now here I should have finished Wolf off with the Winged Prime, but instead I hit Celestine with the Neurothrope, which spawns a Gaunt next to Wolf, and Wolf smashes it. Game is over though. And that's all I have for now. Hydra Dominatus.